Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to the only Frasier podcast hosted by two Scottish brothers. We think. Probably.
It must be.
I think it must be.
Yeah.
We got that niche covered.
Oh, yeah.
You are listening to Le Freres Heureux. He is Ewan.
And he is Fraser.
Yeah, there we go. Doing a bit of the two Ronnies, you know.
Yeah.
Thought I'd switch things up.
Oh, I should have said, and I am Ewan. That would have been funny.
Well, no.
Well, it kind of would have been funny.
I mean, I was hoping you would say, and he's Fraser, because we get both names out that way.
Yeah.
And if anyone is joining us for the first time this week, they might be like, there's two Ewans?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on?
Yeah.
What a silly name.
Mm-hmm.
Why have they both called Ewan?
Silly name.
It's not silly. It's not very common. If you're a fan of like Frasier and 90s American sitcoms,
Mm-hmm.
you might not be familiar with Scottish names.
Speaking of silly names, now this is completely unrelated, but it's just reminded me of a conversation that I was having earlier this evening.
Okay.
I was talking with one of my friends, and her flatmate used to date this guy, so she used to see him every so often. He would come around the flat. Guy called Deucalion.
Deucalion.
Deucalion. Yes.
Deucalion.
Yes.
Like Duke Wellington.
No, like
one word.
Like one word. Deucalion.
Duke Alien.
Deuchalien or something like that.
Duke Alien.
Which it was the name of Prometheus's son in the Greek myth.
Is he Greek?
Probably
she
not.
Greek? They Greek?
I think it was a guy.
Okay.
No, he wasn't Greek. He was a driving instructor.
From Scotland.
I don't know. Could have been from Greece. I don't know.
Maybe it was Greek.
But that's a wild name.
And yeah, what a wild tangent for you to take us on in the first 30 seconds of the episode.
You were talking about weird names, and that's just something funny that I thought our listeners might enjoy hearing.
I'm sure they did. At least some of them.
Let us know what stupid names you've heard in your life. Put them in comments. That'll be funny.
Other than Fraser and Ewan.
Yeah.
Don't do us dirty like that, please.
We got a comment on one of our videos asking if you were named after Frasier.
Really?
Yeah. Fraser is actually just a regular Scottish name.
It is.
It's not
funny, yeah.
Unrelated to the show, as far as I'm aware.
I do frequently get called Frasier, though, despite me knowing that the spelling is different.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever, like, I was on holiday recently, and because Fraser's obviously not a common name at all, they're probably more familiar with Frasier as a name,
yeah.
whether it's from the sitcom, whether it's just like, you know, it's in the occasional American show or whatever. So I always get Frasier, and I've stopped correcting them because it's cool.
Well, people always call Brendan Fraser Brendan Fraser.
Frasier, yeah.
But it's not Frasier, it's Fraser.
It is.
Yeah.
We love Brendan Fraser.
We do love Brendan Fraser. I'm so glad that he's getting a comeback. And
I can't wait,
doing
man.
Well.
I'd love him. The Mummy is just
it's
peak.
It is. It's incredible.
Cinema.
I got it on Blu-ray recently.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh man, it's so good. We need to hurry up and do this horror movie podcast
I know.
so we can talk about the Mummy.
And Brendan Fraser in general.
Fraser.
We do a Brendan Fraser podcast.
I said we should do that. I said we should do that this year. I thought it would be really funny if we did that for April Fools. Like, we just, like, without announcing it, put out an episode where we just talked, instead of talking about Frasier, we talked about Brendan Fraser. And talked about, like, Brendan Fraser movies. And you were like, why is that funny? I don't get it. And I was like, it's because it's kind of... Never mind. Like...
If it was Brendan Fraser...
Yeah, that would work better.
That would work better.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah.
As we've just discussed.
We have.
I wouldn't be adverse to a Brendan Fraser podcast.
Fraser podcast.
A full series go through his whole backlog.
Yeah.
Library. What do you call it?
Filmography.
I'd be up for that.
Mm.
But, oh my god, that's like 3 tangents. We've not even said
started.
where we are. What's going on? Right, okay, we're rewatching Frasier. Did we get past that part? I think
Maybe.
we did. We are officially halfway through.
We are. Yeah,
we are over the line now.
We're now into the second half of the show.
Wow.
Officially.
Wow. Still got plenty to go, but that seems like quite a milestone.
Yeah. Well, here we're kicking off a big interesting plot point that's going to be carrying over into the next season and is going to have lots of knock-on effects for the whole rest of the show.
Correct. Yeah. This is a big disc.
Very exciting.
halfway through season 6. We are on episode 13.
Yep.
Would be halfway through. Let's get stuck in. Why not? The show where Woody shows up is our first episode of this disc.
Yeah.
Woody, you may know from Cheers, the bartender. I know him from this. I don't really know him from Cheers. I know him retroactively from Cheers.
I've only just seen Cheers up to the point where Woody is introduced.
Is he not from the start?
No. So originally there was a character called Coach who never appeared in Frasier because the actor died.
All right.
A few years into Cheers' run. Oh. So between the 3rd and 4th season, the actor that played Coach died, and then they had Woody in as his replacement, because the whole joke with Coach was that he was quite thick. Mm-hmm. So then they basically brought in a new thick bartender, but this time he was young.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. This is the 3rd Cheers character to show up.
I guess 4th if you count Lilith.
Lilith, Sam,
Diane,
of course. Yeah. Sorry, that's what I was thinking. He kind of just shows up out of the blue. Mm-hmm. He's in Seattle, calls Frasier's show to see what's up, and they decide to meet and get together. It's funny how my opinion of this episode very much mirrors the plot of the episode as well. Mm. So the episode itself it sort of centers around meeting your old friends and not really having much to talk about, and you have one night of catch up and reminiscing, which is what they do, and they get some beers, and we're reintroduced to Woody and everything.
Yeah. And
then subsequently throughout the week that he's in Seattle, Frasier just gets sicker and sicker of him.
Yeah.
Because he just, they're going over the same old jokes. Neither, he says neither of them, but Woody hasn't really moved on with his life. He's still at Cheers, still wife, kids, blah, blah, blah. Still in the same place. And that kind of just grows and grows. They go out to karaoke with Gil and Noel.
Yeah.
And Frasier just, depicts it as one of the worst nights of his life.
I can imagine. God, I would not want to go out. I mean, I don't like karaoke at the back. People keep saying, we'll go out for karaoke.
So boring, man.
I hate the idea of going out to karaoke. No,
I'll get you to sing at some point.
Absolutely not. You will not. But the idea of going out to karaoke with Gil and Noel and Woody, to be honest, and Frasier. I can't imagine Frasier being very much fun at karaoke.
Well, Woody makes the joke. What is it when they get back later, and he says I wouldn't want to be stuck on a desert island with your friends. Well, maybe that English guy, he seemed all right.
He was a good performer.
He was a good performer.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of this, and a lot of the rehashing of them catching up and reminiscing, I guess. Mm. Each time they meet, Woody's just telling the same stories, and then eventually Woody has to leave town to go and look after his daughter. She's got an ear infection, and it turns out that he's actually lied. They bump into each other at the same restaurant the same evening, later that evening, and Woody admits that he lied because he was feeling the exact same way as Frasier.
Yeah.
He enjoyed the first night catching up and everything, and after that he was just trying to keep it going. He saw Frasier's life as kind of stale, I guess. I don't know. He's divorced. He's living with his dad. I don't know what he really thought. Yeah. Because that's a perfectly normal position to be in when you're, mid-40s?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and he's a very successful psychiatrist, personality, celebrity. I don't know. I don't know if that's a joke at Woody's expense.
Well, I think it's
the fact that he's kind of
Woody has a lot of the things that Frasier doesn't.
Yeah.
He's married, he's got kids. He's, a lot more settled. Frasier has been in Seattle for, at this point, 5-6 years. But, having relatively recently moved across the country and not really knowing anyone beyond your immediate family would probably look like you're not as settled as someone like Woody, who's, settled down and married and has kids and has lived in Boston for quite a long time.
Yeah.
I can see why he might, I mean, not pity Frasier, but think that he might be less happy in his life than Woody is in his.
I guess, but I kind of always looked at it as like, you know, it is implied that Frasier's a pretty big name in Seattle and even beyond, you know. So him kind of turning around and saying, oh, you know, he doesn't say pity, but you know, it is. Pity's his life as it is at the moment. Like, kind of, I don't know. It just doesn't. It feels a bit forced, almost, to write Woody like that. Yeah. I would have thought that Woody would be more sort of show a bit more admiration towards Frasier and how successful he's become. I don't know. Maybe it is just Woody's a simple guy.
Yeah.
In more ways than one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just, you know, he's happy with his life and sees Frasier as not having what he's got.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, they have a nice little moment after they talk it out.
They do.
In the restaurant. They sit at the bar, they have one last drink together while Niles is on the phone. And then they say cheers.
They do.
To each other when they go away, which I think is a nice little moment.
Very on the nose.
But yeah, it is. But it's cute.
Yeah.
To be honest, I hadn't really thought about it before watching it this time.
Yeah.
I don't think I had really considered before that's, you know, I mean, it is pretty obviously like a nod, but I hadn't thought of it like that until now. So maybe that's because I'm stupid, but you know,
it's not really something you would necessarily consider.
No,
I guess, unless you're paying attention. But yeah, as I said, this episode kind of my feelings on it are kind of mirrored in the plot. In that I really like the start. I really like them hanging out with Woody, and the jokes and stuff, and him kind of being, I say reintroduced as if I'd watched him before. To me, watching just Frasier, it's kind of just being introduced as a past character from Frasier's life. But he's very charming, and he's got a nice sort of innocence to him, even though he's not the smartest bulb in the bulb box.
Yeah.
But the jokes they tell are pretty funny. And what is the joke when Niles says, I wouldn't mind sticking around hanging out and grabbing a pizza with a couple of rapscallions. And Woody says, if you don't mind, can we make that half rapscallion, half pepperoni? I love that line.
That's what I like. I like the jokes about Woody being stupid.
Yeah.
There's like the joke, he's like looking at, admiring the skyline in this Seattle tourist book, and then Frasier says like, oh, it's better if you turn around, and he just sort of turns around, not realizing that the window with the skyline is right there, you know. And it's like, you know, jokes like that I think are pretty funny. Overall, I'm not that big on the plot either. I kind of, when he's first introduced and they kind of, you don't hear the whole stories because it probably wouldn't be all that interesting to the audience, but the stories they're telling each other and the little jokes about Woody being a bit thick, and especially kind of Niles with Frasier and Woody, and how he really sticks out. Yeah. Even with Frasier and Woody being so different, Niles really is like totally separate from the two of them. That's fun. But then like you say, as Frasier is getting sick of Woody's company, the episode drags on.
It does a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, it does a little bit.
It maybe would have been nice if they had gone a different way, bringing back a Cheers character. Like, I feel like the other ones have all been a little bit more, oh, maybe not with Diane, but Sam was a lot more plot driven with the whole, you know, him and Sheila and that whole drama. Maybe it would have been nice if we had a bit more of a vehicle for Woody to be in rather than just...
Or alternatively, just focused a bit more on addressing the fact that their lives are very different.
Yeah.
I think that part of it is quite thin. You know, they do address it right at the end when Frasier and Woody confront each other. I say confront as if it's a fight. It's not a fight, but like just finally talk to each other. And Frasier says like, oh, well, that's funny because, you know, I love my life. I'm really happy with where I am overall. And, you know, he doesn't actually say I was pitying you because he feels bad.
Yeah.
But that's how he feels. And obviously Woody's very happy with his life and where he is. But that's just a tiny little part right at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel if they'd leaned a bit further into that kind of thing and addressing Frasier's feelings on his whole situation at the moment,
yeah,
it might have been a bit more interesting. And comparing that to Woody's life a bit more, I don't know. Or as you say, just giving Woody more of a reason to be in Seattle.
Yeah.
Rather than just saying he turned up, he got off a plane one day. Yeah. Woody Harrelson's great. I love Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson is fantastic. I really like him in anything.
Yeah.
I've not watched much of him in like serious roles. I know that he does sometimes play more serious roles.
Yeah.
Something in like, I mean, the one that stands out to me is like Natural Born Killers.
Natural Born Killers. It's still a bit goofy.
Yeah. Something like The Hunger Games. He kind of plays a little bit more of a, I suppose, more of a mature character. He's not his usual self. And as it has been a long time since I have watched those films, but I remember him being pretty good.
He is good. He is a very good actor. He is a very good actor.
Have you seen the film Kingpin?
No, that's where he's the bowler, right?
He's the bowler, and it's got Bill Murray in it.
I've not.
It's terrible. It's awful. I was visiting my partner's family this weekend, and her dad was like, "Oh, I'll put a movie on. Have you seen Kingpin?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "I'll put it on. You'll love it." And it was the worst film I've ever seen in my life. Honestly, it was it was. I've seen some bad movies, but it was probably the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. It's awful.
Really?
Yes. Absolutely terrible, and it's such a shame that Woody Harrelson's in it. Like you kind of expect it from Bill Murray. Like he's been in some really good films.
Well, he had all the sort of National Lampoon,
but I feel like he's been in some bad films and just kind of shows up and does his usual thing and gets a paycheck. Woody Harrelson, I would have expected a bit better from, to be honest.
3 Billboards.
He's really good in that.
Have you seen that?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
He's really good in that.
Actually,
that is a good example of him playing a more serious character. As much as it's still a bit of a dark comedy in places. It's very grim.
Thrilled by the film on the whole, but
no, do you not like it?
I'm not huge of
Martin McDonagh.
Frances
McDormand.
Frances McDormand, yeah.
I quite like her. I've not really seen her in much else though, to be honest.
I've not really seen her in.
I've not seen
like Fargo.
I've not seen Fargo.
Have you not?
No.
You should watch Fargo.
I might watch Fargo.
It's pretty good.
There you go.
We've not done ratings. Let's do ratings.
We've not done ratings. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned National Lampoon films, because one of the characters that is in the National Lampoon films, I've not seen them. I think she's the mother. Beverly D'Angelo is our guest caller in this episode. She calls in right at the start, and she's talking about how she doesn't want to apologize to her sister, and because she refuses to Menades the dress that she Rippides did, and it leads Frasier to make a Latin pun that no one gets other than him, which is funny.
Yeah, how's that for things coming together, tying together? Yeah. Well, you go first. What did you give it?
I give it a 2.
Only a 2?
I give it a 2. Okay. Because, like, I think the main thing that I like about it is I like Woody Harrelson, and I like him in this role. I think he's very endearing and playing a kind of thick character.
Yeah.
I think
endearing is the right word.
I don't think I'm sure he's not a stupid person, and I think he's a good actor, but like he does really well in that role of playing this absolute himbo, which is really funny, and I enjoy that. But generally, like, the plot of the episode overall is pretty underwhelming. There's not really anything going on beyond that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I was a little bit more favourable. I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
A bit more middle of the road. Because, I love Woody. I like the start, the first, 5-7 minutes or so when they're in the apartment and they're catching up and everything. I think that's really funny.
Yeah.
And that's great. The middle drags a little bit. The stuff with Gil, when they come back from the karaoke and they're talking about Gil dancing on the lap of a wealthy, is it Chinese businessman or something, is very funny. But the rest of the middle is kind of blah. And then the final scene at the end is just kind of nice, seeing them two sort of reconcile and wrap up. But yeah, overall, I don't disagree. It is a bit underwhelming. So yeah, I wouldn't give it any more than a 3.
Yeah.
But there we go.
There you go.
Next one.
Speaking of episodes with very, very strong openings, this one was advertised by NBC as the funniest 10 minutes of Frasier ever.
Was it really?
It was.
I would beg to differ, but...
Really?
Yeah.
Well...
I might have a controversial opinion on this episode.
That's definitely a controversial opinion, because I mean it was in the like fan favorites DVD. I think I mentioned that
before.
The Ski Lodge I think was another one that was in that. They released a DVD with like the best Frasier episodes according to fans, and this was one of them. And the main reason is because of this opening bit with Niles.
Okay,
you're not a fan?
Let's go through it.
Okay,
let's go through it. So, 3 Valentines is the next episode. As Ewan has been saying, it is very widely regarded as, I don't know strictly as one of the best episodes, but certainly the first of 3 segments within the episode is considered to be like one of the best.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's broken down into 3 parts. We've got all the different Crane family members getting ready for Halloween? No, for Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
3 Halloweens.
3 Halloweens. Isn't that just trick or treat?
Well, I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah. Getting ready for Valentine's Day. So we start off with Niles by himself. Frasier has lent him his apartment, so he and Eddie are preparing for the date, and it's more or less a silent. It's like 7 minutes or so, maybe. It's a fair few minutes.
Yeah,
5, 6, 7 minutes or so. And the majority of it, no dialogue. It is just David Hyde Pierce and Moose the dog, as Eddie, running around the apartment, trying to prepare for this date, and everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
What is it? He tries to iron a crease out his trousers, and then
pulls a thread, needs to cut the thread and
pricks his finger, faints because of the blood. He sets his trousers on fire because he leaves the iron on it.
Yeah, gets blood on the couch, and he has to put like white spirit stain remover on the couch.
Stains the couch,
and then knocks the accident when he burns his hands trying to put his flaming trousers out. Yeah. Accidentally throws them onto the couch, and it sets the couch on fire because of all the white spirit.
And then he
winds up has to throw the dinner over the couch to put the fire out. Oh, and the fire extinguisher sprays the fire extinguisher all over the apartment.
It is madness, and will we do each section individually?
I suppose we could do
as we go through it.
Yeah.
So, I get it objectively how fun this is. But rewatching it now again with like my little critical hat on, it's not for me.
No?
This kind of comedy is not for me. It's like almost slapstick.
Oh, it's definitely slapstick, yeah.
You know? And it feels very out of place for an episode of Frasier. Right? Because we've had physical comedy before, but it's always been integrated as part of the wider joke. Whereas for this segment, it's the whole joke, right? And I'm not saying it's objectively bad. It is funny. David Hyde Pierce is amazing at physical comedy.
Yeah.
And he does a great, great job. It's easily the best part of this episode, but it's not for me.
No.
It's just, I'm watching 7 minutes of silence, well, classical music playing in the background, and David Hyde Pierce running around, right? I would much rather be watching 7 minutes of My Coffee with Niles, where it's the two of them riffing off each other.
Yeah. I understand. Like, I get why Frasier, as a very dialogue-heavy show, like it always plays off of like the witty humor. Like, I mean, that's Frasier's strength, is like the wordplay and the kind of dramatic irony being played for comedic purposes, and there's no room for that when it's no dialogue and it's 100% like physical comedy. I think I don't dislike it as it is. I totally understand your criticism of it and how it's not really like a Frasier-y setup. It's very kind of Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of. And if that's something that you enjoy, I imagine you'd probably love this. But yeah, if it's not for you, it's not for you, and I understand that, and I respect that.
Yeah, it's just rewatching it, because I always kind of thought of it very highly in my head as this great sequence, and I mean, like I said, objectively, it's well done. It is, but rewatching it again, I was just kind of like, I'd much rather be watching another episode, But that's fine. We'll on to the next segment, unless you have anything else to add.
I don't really I enjoy it. I still think of it as like a really, really solid bit in the show, and it's probably the main reason that I've rated the episode as highly as I have.
Okay.
Because I think it's better than the other two segments, and overall I like the episode, and it's mostly because of this. But I understand the criticism, and I don't disagree. So
okay, good. Remember you said that.
Yeah.
The second segment is Frasier, and he is on a work date, I guess, with Cassandra from sales, from ads, from marketing somewhere else in KCL.
I think she's a marketing executive. I think is the name, that the title that Frasier gives her at one point.
I can't remember exactly. Promos or something like that. Played by Virginia Madsen.
Who I love Virginia Madsen.
Is amazing.
She's fantastic.
Absolutely love her.
Candyman.
Yeah.
It's probably the thing that she's most well known for, I reckon. And she's been in plenty of other good things as well. But
I also always get her and Veronica Cartwright mixed up.
They do look quite similar.
They also have similar names as well.
They do.
There's
a bit of an age gap, though.
A little bit,
Veronica Cartwright's got
she's
to be
a bit older,
a bit older.
But it's just sort of similar. I don't want to say
they've both got quite big eyes, and I suppose relatively, they're both. Well, are they both blonde? Yeah, Veronica Cartwright's blonde.
She was for most of her career.
Lots of the films.
That's by the by. I just always
get
them mixed up. So she is joining Frasier for the dinner date, and there's a lot of ambiguity as to whether or not it's an actual date or whether it's just two work friends getting together. So the whole joke throughout the sequence is that Frasier doesn't know, and there's a lot of ambiguity as to whether. So she's wearing a gorgeous low-cut dress, but then she orders oysters.
Yeah. So there's the whole. So it's like, Frasier starts his segment on the phone with Roz and explains, I don't know if this is a work thing or a date or whatever. Then Cassandra shows up wearing this dress that's quite, I suppose, quite revealing. It's not something you would wear to a business function. And he kind of thinks, oh, it must be a date. And then she explains that she was at a cocktail party or something before. Yeah. And he kind of thinks like, oh, well, maybe that's the only reason she's wearing it, and it's not really a date thing. And then, they start ordering food, and she orders something with lots of garlic and onions or whatever. And he kind of goes, okay, so it must not be a date. And then, she says, are you in the mood for oysters? And oysters being an aphrodisiac.
Oh, I'm
assuming it's the joke.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, okay. I thought it was the other way around.
Like, no, oysters, I thought it was like quite a romantic thing.
Like fish. Seafood.
Would you
eat seafood before
maybe
a date?
People
really?
People talk about having
like fishy breath.
Champagne and oysters as like it's not really fishy. Oysters don't really taste fishy.
They're not?
No.
I've never had oysters in my life.
Shellfish like that. It's more like it's more like briny, like the smell of the sea. It's not like
not any better. That's not romantic.
It's not especially romantic, but they are, like I say, they are supposed to be aphrodisiacs, so people usually have
that makes more sense, to be fair.
And she kind of says like, oh, are you in the mood for oysters? And he goes, oh, I don't know. Like, he's panicking. Like I really like that. I like the setup. I think it's interesting.
They go, so there's sort of two sections to this section as well. They go back to the apartment after the dinner date. And again, it's all surrounding this ambiguity. It's been raining, so she says, take your coat off, put the slippers on, and he's like, oh, or she said get comfortable. It was like, oh, is she saying to get into a dressing gown or just to take off the wet shoes and whatever? And then she comes out wearing a sort of like silk robe, and she's like, oh yeah, I need to get out of the wet clothes. And it's like, you know what we can do to warm up? Oh yeah, a brandy. Oh yeah. And it's just this back and forward. And they eventually end up in bed together, but she falls asleep
immediately.
So it's all this very awkward back and forth, and I gotta say, I'm not a fan of it.
No,
at all. It's really just kind of awkward.
It is.
It focuses very much on Frasier. So as much as I don't want to fault Virginia Madsen as much as I can, it does very much focus on him and his reaction to what she's saying or doing.
Yeah.
And as we know, when Frasier misunderstands things, it's very cringeworthy.
It always goes horribly wrong. Yeah.
He's always on the wrong side of it.
Yeah.
So it's just a whole sequence of that is just a bit draining to watch.
That's true. That's true. I think it goes on too far. Like I like the idea behind it. I think it's got a lot of potential for a lot of funny jokes, and we see that in the scene in the restaurant. There's like he tips there's a violinist. He tips the violinist to come over and play something romantic, but then as soon as he comes over right as Cassandra starts talking about work, and then he kind of is like shooing him away again, and then she starts saying something kind of flirty, and then he starts like bringing him back again, you know, and it's funny, and I think it had potential to be better. It's the scene in the hotel that I don't like, where it's just like, okay, we get the joke, do something funnier with it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because we don't even get a concrete answer.
That's true. There's
not
no
in this one, at least.
Actual resolution. Yeah, that's true.
But, you know, it could have gone either way. It could have gone... I think, as much as I don't like the episodes where it's just kind of Frasier is on a date with a gorgeous woman and then does or says something stupid and gets kicked out on his arse, it would have made a lot of sense in this case if he had either made a pass at her and she wasn't interested and said, "What are you doing? This is just a business dinner, whatever," and kicked him out. Or if he hadn't made a move and then she had, you know, done the same thing, kicked him out because she was offended that he was taking too long to make a move, or whatever. That would have at least made sense. At the end, they just keep doing the same joke over and over,
it kind of fizzles, doesn't it?
It literally just ends with Cassandra is asleep, fade to black.
Yeah,
it's nothing, you know, which is frustrating.
It is a bit. There's definitely a lot more they could have done. Thankfully, it's not the last we see of Cassandra.
It is not.
No, we do see her again soon. The final segment is Martin and Daphne out for a sort of friend date on Valentine's Day, and Daphne's feeling a bit emotional because she's not got an actual date. She's very upset about it. Martin's trying to console her, and the two of them are sort of just trying to build each other up, but end up offending each other in their words. They're not. Yeah, it's a bit strange. So Martin's trying to comfort her and saying that she's very attractive and you'll find someone and blah 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 blah. And then she reciprocates it by saying that Martin is more of a pet to her, than a father or husband.
Yeah,
it's very strange, their conversation.
It would have been nice if we had kind of explored the relationship that they have, because they clearly must spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
Like we never really get a chance to talk about how close they are. Either in like a kind of father who never had a daughter warming to a woman who would be about the age of his daughter kind of relationship, or even just like in a platonic friendly way. We never really get much of the two of them just spending time together and enjoying each other's company.
Well, I mean,
unless it's at Frasier's expense. I can think of a few times when that happens.
There's a few times they sort of go out together. You see them, the sort of sequences alone. They go out shopping together, or they go looking for the Muckabees.
Yeah, it always seems like it's like they're running errands together, or they're,
even
it's even like little Daphne sort of dragging Martin out for a walk.
Yeah, it's like little offhanded things. The charades. Yeah, just the two of them sort of obviously very comfortable with each other.
We do get that in an upcoming episode as well. They're in their little morning routine that they have.
Yes,
down to a T, which is nice.
Yeah, it's good.
But like, yeah, I feel like
I know what you mean though.
It would have been nice if we had explored this, because it is kind of like they're an old married couple, and we get hints of that in the way that they interact with each other, but never really exploring the idea that they just really enjoy each other's company. And this would have been a good opportunity for it, and it's a bit frustrating that it just ends with them kind of chatting away about nothing particularly.
I mean, they just get grumpy with each other,
and then they just get annoyed with each other, and then it's the end of the episode.
Yeah, it's a shame. Definitely could have done more. They could have done more. It's very much the last sequence is very much just there. I don't know. It doesn't really serve any kind of purpose.
No, I feel the same way.
Even Fraser's segment, it feels like they are trying to tell a funny story.
Yeah.
Fraser not understanding his date. Haha, that's the joke, right? So I get that. But then Daphne and Martin, it's just the two of them not really understanding how to talk to each other. I don't know. There's not really much there. So it feels very. It's a wasted opportunity for something that could be a lot better. I probably ranked it very much lower than yours, but I hope it's not too controversial. I hope I'm not getting in trouble for this. But I only gave it a 2.
Yeah.
I gave it a very low 2, and the only thing that saved it was Niall's sequence.
Yeah.
Because I think the rest just has nothing going for it, really.
That's fair enough.
I just, rewatching it, I was just like, just kind of want to get on to the next episodes.
Yeah, I almost gave it a 5 right out the bat, because of how good I think the first segment is. But then, to be honest, I pretty quickly went, no, it's not deserving of a 5, just because it's got one really good bit. If the rest of it's completely mediocre at best, it doesn't deserve a 5.
Yeah.
And so I put it down to a 4. But even now, I'm like, I don't even know if it deserves a 4, to be honest.
Really?
I'd be tempted to give it a 3, because it's like, if half of the episode is good and the other half is pretty crap, can you still really give it a 4? That seems like that's a bit of a...
Go with your gut.
I'm going to give it a 3.
Give it a 3.
I'm going to give it a 3. Because I like the opening. I think David Hyde Pierce does it very well, but I do agree with you that it's a bit annoying in that it's very much away from Fraser's strengths.
Yeah. It's a shame.
I think the segment with Cassandra has a lot of potential but isn't great, and then I think the third segment isn't very good at all. So I think 3's
good balance.
3's a fair score for that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's maybe a couple of controversial ratings compared to what some people I think of 3 Valentines.
Yeah.
But let us know. Is 3 Valentines one of your favourite episodes, dear listeners?
DM us. Put comments on YouTube. Send us emails.
Do the replies.
Reply to the tweets and send us carrier pigeons and...
Don't do that. Don't send us carrier pigeons. We don't know what to do with them. My dog will catch them in the garden and...
Snack.
Yeah. Right, okay, moving on from 3 Valentines and our controversial opinions. The next episode, big implications for the rest of this series, majority of the next series, and then, as you said, has knock-on for the remainder of the show, really. To tell the truth, we follow on from... what's the episode called? Secret Admirer? No.
Well, I suppose there's How to Bury a Millionaire.
How to Bury a Millionaire. Sorry, is the one after that, yeah. And following Niall's divorce from Maris, he is being bled dry by Maris's presumably incredibly expensive lawyers, and the court case has been delayed 8 months, I think he says, initially, which Niles cannot afford. He's already living at the Shangri-La. He's already driving a hatchback. He's now eating bologna sandwiches and fruit cocktails for lunch. Thankfully, Roz knows a fantastic lawyer named Donnie Douglas. Obviously, Frasier and Niles are very apprehensive because it's, you know, Roz's friend. Why should we trust her lower class lawyers, you know? But they go and meet Donnie, played by Saul Rubinek, I should say, who is amazing.
I love Saul Rubinek. I think he's great.
Amazing in the role. And they're very quickly turned around. Initially, it's a bit of an awkward meeting. He's just back from the gym. He's like getting changed, having his post-gym snack, all while like they're trying to talk to him, and it seems like he's ignoring them. But as soon as the conversation ends and Niles sort of almost threatens to leave, he picks up the phone, calls Maris's lawyers, and immediately shows them who they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I really love that scene. Yeah. I love the you know, don't judge a book by its cover attitude that the show has for Donnie.
Yeah, because I think Frasier and Niles probably expected they want to go and they want to pay for the highest priced lawyer, and it's going to be someone wearing the fanciest suit and always super professional all the time, and you know, and then Donnie comes in and he's a lot more casual, at least with them at that point. And just proves that he's very competent. He's very good at what he does.
Yep.
And I love him for that.
Yeah, I think he's great.
Yeah,
he's really great. So from that point on, the second half of the episode is them preparing for depositions. We've got Frasier, who's just being a right arse about it all because he's under oath, and Donnie is asking questions about Niles and about if he's ever been wasteful with money, or they then go on to talk about alienation of affection, his attraction or his purported attraction, purported attraction to Daphne.
Yeah.
And Frasier refuses to lie under oath about it because he knows all these things. He knows that Niles has been wasteful on occasion, but you know, Donnie's trying to coach him to say, you know, I don't recall, not to the best of my recollection, those kind of things. And I really hate Frasier for this. I really, it's such an he's not asking a lot.
No,
as a lawyer, that's probably what you would coach anyone to do, and I think the vast majority of people would have no issue with it. You know, I guess technically, yes, you are lying under oath, but you're kind of just skirting the truth.
Yeah,
you're not explicitly lying. I guess.
I think it boils down to the moral implications. I think really, like, Frasier definitely has in his head that lying is always morally wrong. You should never lie about anything, which is a really quite hypocritical thing for him to do, because he's more than happy to lie on several occasions if it means him getting his whole. And yet, when it comes down to his brother's well-being and, you know, happiness and future success in life, in pretty much every aspect, he's suddenly willing to spill any truth at any point,
regardless of how the negative impact it'll have. Martin sets him right, and I really love the scene with Martin.
You
know, Niles is pretty devastated when he finds out that Maris is going to try and bring Daphne into it. I think they say it's from Moondance, because the dance that they have together, and obviously Daphne considers that all fake, but to Niles it was real, and she intends to bring that up and use that as evidence of Niles' infidelity, I guess. So he's pretty devastated because Frasier's going to go up and tell the truth about it all, and Martin tries to call him out on it and says, like, look, no, don't, he's your brother, how could you do that? You know, and Frasier's very defensive, you know, don't I'll never lie under oath. You know, I got that from you, got my morals from you. And Martin, initially, he starts with like a sort of joke anecdote, saying, you know, if there's a meteor hurtling towards the Earth, and you had to lie under oath to save all mankind, would you do it?
Yeah.
From a talking meteor.
Yeah.
Yes, I would. But yeah, and then the second one he makes is, John Mahoney here is just so good, man. I love it. He tells a story of when he was a cop and someone he was chasing slipped the handcuffs before he had a chance to finish reading him his rights, which obviously in America, like that'll get your case thrown out.
Yeah.
If you don't read the rights in full. And they go to court about it. Martin gets up on the stand and he says, you know, yes, I read him his rights in full. This is a guy who's been, what did he say, in and out of jail all his life. He knows his rights inside out. So he gets up on the stand and says, yes, I read him his rights in full. He lied under oath. And he says, there's not a doubt in my mind that I did the right thing. Even though it might not be morally justified. But I love that little scene. It's 30 seconds of John Mahoney giving this little speech, and I absolutely love it. I think it's so good. And it's just delivered with real authenticity, almost. You believe it when Martin talks about his old cop stories, and I really like that about it.
Yeah.
That's not even the purpose of the episode. That's like a sideline, but it's one of my favorite bits. I really enjoy it. And yes, ultimately, so we get to the end, and Donnie has revealed a little packet for Niles, including details on where Maris got her fortune, which Niles believes to have been from timber, but it wasn't.
It was not from timber.
It was from urinal cakes. So obviously Maris will do anything to prevent that from getting around the high society circles. So Niles uses that as his perfect bargaining chip to get whatever he wants out of her, and he does. And we see Niles nice and happy at the end, and he's finally free from Maris, and he can get his apartment back and his car back and stop eating bologna sandwiches.
Yeah. Until
he turns around and he sees that Donnie and Daphne have started dating.
Oh, God.
Heartbreaking.
The emotional whiplash that you must have suffered seeing that. It's like getting punched in the stomach.
And it shows. You know, David Hyde Pierce does a great job of showing it.
Yeah.
He really does. You know, it's this immediate, just like a flick of the switch from just absolute happiness to just complete devastation.
Yeah. Poor guy.
It's a shame. And it's something that we will talk about a lot more before the end of the season.
Yeah.
But that is to tell the truth. I think it's a great episode.
Yeah,
I think it's very plot heavy in terms of Niles and Maris, in terms of introducing Donnie as a recurring character.
Yeah.
But we get some really nice moments in it.
Yep.
And overall, it's just a really solid episode. It's not like particularly funny. It's not one that stands out as one of like the great episodes, but it's just a really, really solid episode.
Yeah. I really like it. In a way, it's quite funny and also quite sad, but I really like Niles sitting under the piano when he feels anxious, and he kind of talks about how it's this like safe, comforting environment sitting under Frasier's grand piano. I don't know why, but there's something I can understand that. I would kind of like. I mean, he talks about there being cobwebs under there, and I would hate to. Yeah,
some kind of a nest.
I know. I don't. I'm with Niles on his dislike of insects.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can kind of imagine sitting under a piano being very comforting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you absolutely. I really like this episode.
How did you rank it in the end?
I gave it a 4.
Good. I also gave it a 4.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if I would give it a 5. I don't know if it's necessarily missing something, or if it's just maybe the fact that it's more plot heavy. There's not.
Yeah, it's lacking a little something.
There's not the room for like the humor that would need to be injected to make it a 5-cupper.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
And yeah, but overall, I think it's done very, very well. The episode as it is.
Yeah,
there you go.
Very solid episode, and I think that's about as much as we can, as succinct as we can put it.
Much. There is a little it's not really a guest appearance because it's an actress that wasn't especially well known at the time, and even now I don't think has been in much that would make them particularly recognizable beyond Scrubs. But Aloma Wright plays Donnie's secretary or assistant, who was in Scrubs and played Nurse Roberts, one of the kind of big recurring characters throughout Scrubs. And she I feel like she had a lot of small roles where she played characters like this. She played kind of like secretaries, assistants, shopkeepers, and every so often you see an episode of something like sitcoms around this era. There's like lots of little episodes when she appears in, and it's always like, oh look, it's Laverne from Scrubs. And I really like seeing her in things because I think she's a good actress. I think she plays nice little characters.
Yeah, she's certainly a fun little side character in this. Yeah, good. Moving on. Decoys. Next episode. It kind of follows almost directly on from the previous episode. Probably like a week difference. But Niles is very much still reeling from finding out about Donnie and Daphne, but also kind of starting to get his life back on track.
Yeah,
he, as part of the settlement from Maris, he inherits her lakefront cottage somewhere in Washington. I don't know where exactly.
Yeah.
So he sort of concocts this scheme to take. Initially, it's to take Daphne, and she can't go. So he switches up his plans to take Roz and Donnie, who previously dated.
Yeah.
I don't think I mentioned that in the previous episode.
You did.
Did I mention that?
Yeah.
So he wants to take them, break up Daphne and Donnie, and get them back together so that he can get Daphne. Very underhanded, very sneaky. Do not approve at all.
No, but when he's explaining his plan to Roz, and Roz kind of says like, "This is terrible that you're only doing this because you want Daphne," and he goes, "Yes, I do want Daphne. Yeah. Why should 2 people be happy when 4 people can be ecstatic?" It's just he's so desperate. He's like clutching at all of these straws, trying to get Daphne now that he's finally divorced.
He is. I still don't agree with.
No, of course not.
It's very, very sneaky. And if anyone found out about it, like if Daphne found out about what he did,
no.
She wouldn't forgive him.
No,
God, no. So I don't really know what his end game was, but anyway, it leads to a good, fun little farce. It's not I think I'm using farce right here. I know I use that quite a lot.
Yeah.
When describing episodes, but it is a bit the sort of, was it door slamming, did we call it, with the ski lodge? People going in one door and coming out other doors and losing track of who's in which room. Yeah. And it's very much there's not a huge amount to the episode. As the episode goes on, we've got Donnie shows up first, and then Frasier and Martin, who previously couldn't come, show up, and then Daphne shows up as well as a surprise. So it's just everyone in the house going back and forward and mismatching. Niles trying to convince Martin and Frasier that he and Roz are there together, and that Donnie has nothing to do with it. It's all very fun and lighthearted, but with this sort of darker scheme behind it all. Yeah. So I don't think it quite has the light-hearted hilarity of the ski lodge. Yeah, it doesn't quite match that level of farce.
The phrase that I put in my notes is that this is kind of like a Poundland version of the Ski Lodge.
I think that's a wee bit harsh.
It's sort of like a bit of a cheap knockoff of the Ski Lodge.
It's like a Lidl to Ski Lodge's Asda.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, no, Asda's maybe not right. I was trying to
the Ski Lodge
American audiences.
The Ski Lodge is Waitrose, and
Waitrose.
Oh yeah,
You rank Waitrose the highest?
Yeah. Well, it's the fanciest.
It's too fancy. It's pretentious. Who shops at Waitrose?
Yeah, we're talking about Frasier here. This is clearly the most pretentious sitcom.
Yeah, but the Ski Lodge isn't pretentious.
Okay, all right. It's a Marks and Spencer, a Sainsbury's. Where would you rank it?
Yeah, I'll give you a Marquis.
Give you a Marquis.
Spencer.
All right, okay.
Yeah,
this isn't going to make any sense for anyone.
I know people
from
other countries are just like, what are they saying?
Yeah,
what are these words? They're shops. They're
supermarkets.
For those of you who don't know, there are various grades of supermarket in the UK. Yeah, no, I think Poundland's maybe a little bit harsh on this episode. Well, I mean, depending on your ranking. Yeah. To be fair, maybe you don't like.
No,
this at all,
it's not that I don't like it. It's just that I definitely think that a lot of the stuff that's in this is very similar to the Ski Lodge. It's just done a lot better in the Ski Lodge.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
And one of the things that we did say when we were talking about the Ski Lodge is that it would have benefited from Roz being a part of it.
True.
And Roz is a part of this.
True.
And it's nice seeing Roz in the middle of it, because this is the kind of setup that you could really imagine Roz being a pivotal
key player
part of,
yeah.
and it works well with her being there. And I have mentioned this before, not in a little while because it hasn't really come up, but I think that Niles and Roz in an alternate universe would have made a great pairing, and this is about as close as we get with them. Kind of, is. They have a nice little moment where they talk about like, Niles of course has his ulterior motive, but he kind of says like, well, why don't we just go hang out at the cabin, the two of us? It'll be nice, I'll take a bottle of wine, we can just sit and complain to each other about how awful our love lives are and how I'm in love with Daphne and you're in love with, well, not in love with Donnie, but Roz is talking about how she kind of wishes that she let him go, and he's the one that got away for Roz.
I love them as friends.
I
think they have this great relationship, this great rapport between them, and I'd love to see them end up together, honestly. I think there was definitely a story there was a plot line missed with Niles and Roz, definitely. But as you say, this is probably as close as we get to the two of them, and it's good fun. I do enjoy it. I love how quick Roz gets on board with the devious plans, and just them trying to salvage it when everything starts to go wrong is very funny, and I really just enjoy it. It's a nice break from the more, despite the previous episode I think being probably better overall, it's got a slightly more serious nature to it. The fact that we're dealing with Niles' divorce, and these serious sort of moral questions, whereas here it's much more lighthearted, even though the core is kind of the same. The Daphne, the Niles in love with Daphne core to it. This episode's a lot more lighthearted and just a bit more fun and carefree, I guess. And we've gotten the setup of Daphne and Donnie out of the way, which lets us really dive into it. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I agree. So what would you rank it? I gave it a 4. Give it a 4? I gave it a 4. I do like this episode. Mostly Niles and Roz. I think just wonderful together. I think are great. And then I like a good farce. As long as it's done well, I like a good farce. So I went for a 3. Okay. Because I think it's not quite as strong of an episode as To Tell the Truth or other episodes that I have recently given 4s. I think it's maybe a little bit more that's fair. A little bit more middly, but I still do really enjoy it. Good. Then I'll move on.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's any guest appearances.
There's not. No, it's all very isolated in this cabin. We don't have any room for guest callers or anything.
Nope. No telephone lines up to the cabins.
No.
Next up, dinner party. I do enjoy dinner party. I love a bottle episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I mentioned this. What was the previous episode we were talking about that's almost a bottle episode?
Well, I remember we talked about all the way back in My Coffee with Niles is kind of a bottle episode.
Yeah. Maybe it was back then?
Probably was.
That's a while ago.
It was a while ago.
My memory's not that good.
Yeah, there's definitely like very much not only, I mean, almost entirely within the living room. There's a couple of scenes in Daphne's bedroom.
Yeah.
But almost entirely in Fraser's living room kitchen area.
And it takes place over about 25 minutes as well.
Real time.
Yeah.
I mean, My Coffee with Niles kind of did, but not really.
There's a couple of little jumps.
Really many like obvious cuts.
Yeah.
But you assume that it takes place kind of over the course of maybe a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Whereas this is quite clearly just 20 minutes of chaos.
And the brilliant thing about it is it's not even like chaos in things being set on fire in Niles fainting like we had in 3 Valentines. It's very much what would you call it? I was going to say high class chaos, but that's not really. It's more societal chaos. How would you describe it?
I suppose it's actually interesting comparing. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but it's interesting comparing this with the opening of 3 Valentines in that it's set in the exact same locations.
Mm-hmm.
You've got not an awful lot going on like plot wise. It's really just a lot of jokes, one-off jokes, but it goes from just slapstick, no dialogue, to all dialogue.
Yeah.
And still manages to maintain the same level of kind of silliness. But, and same level of comedy. Or, I mean, very different type of comedy, but
it
certainly
is.
Still very funny.
It is different, but it's the two sides of the same coin, I guess. So the boys, the brothers, are planning a dinner party. They've met a couple, the Ashfords, the Ashbys, sorry, at a party or a function or whatever, and they want to get to know them better.
Mm-hmm.
So they try and plan this dinner party revolving around them, and in true Frasier fashion, I've not said that in a while, everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
So they obviously basing it around this couple. They're trying to find other couples and friends that can come along. They have an argument over who they want and who they can veto. They try to find a date. They eventually find a date, and then Martin throws a wrench in the plans by saying he's got the poker night. So obviously he reschedules, and then turns out they have to reschedule to the first date, and it's madness. It's all this planning around a dinner party.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever tried to plan anything with your friends of a group larger than like 3, you will understand the pain of it watching this episode.
Yeah,
there's definitely okay, they're talking much higher range. They're getting caterers. They're inviting their fancy friends, for whatever reason. There a lot of rescheduling going on around it, but there is something very much grounded in reality about this kind of planning.
Oh, absolutely.
For a party. So I love it. I love this episode. I think it's so much fun. We've got all this great little dialogue, mostly between Niles and Fraser. We've got this kind of background plot of Daphne and Roz going out to a ball or something.
Yeah.
What is it? I can't remember.
It's some party gala event at the British Embassy or the British Consulate.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I didn't mention that.
And they have a joke about Roz meeting a lord who might turn her into a lady, and Niles says it would take the actual lord to turn Roz into a lady.
Yeah. So they're Daphne's dress is ruined by the dry cleaner, so they're trying to find a replacement, and there's lots of jokes at the expense of Roz's spare dresses and everything. It's very good. It's just kind of this back and forward with them sort of appearing and then running through the scene, and it's great. I love it. And it just, again, it feels very realistic. How many times have you sort of sat down to do something and then you've got other people, you know, running around the house making a scene?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, even though they're talking about a different class of people than we are, I guess.
Yeah.
There is this great aspect of all of these jokes around things that you totally believe would happen to you.
Yeah.
Which I really, it connects with me. I was going to say it touches me. That I don't like saying that things touch me.
No.
But it just, yeah.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
No, I get you. I agree with you. I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a very relatable plot with just scheduling conflicts and mix-ups and
having people that secretly don't like you. There's always this sort of worry
that
you're inviting people that don't actually like you. You know, they leave the phone off the hook when they're supposed to hang up, so Frasier and Niles hear their friends.
That is my worst nightmare.
Saying them being someone that don't actually like their company.
Someone being polite to me and then turning around to someone else and saying something like, "Oh yeah, them again."
Yeah.
It's just
yeah.
No, I hate it. I hate it.
It's it's definitely a fear. So the fact that they show it and then it leads to this total like panic with Frasier and Niles as well.
Yeah.
Total like overreacting, and eventually they just give up on the whole thing because, let's be honest, it was a disaster.
Yeah. Niles blackballs himself.
He decides
to uninvite himself from the dinner party.
Yeah. It's great. I love this episode, and it's
very fun.
It's the first 5 in a while that I've given.
Give it a 5
because I love a bottle episode. Some of my favorite episodes in TV are bottle episodes.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say this is necessarily one of them, but it's definitely one of my favorite episodes of Frasier. When I think of season 6, I always think of this as a standout to me. So 5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah.
What about you?
So I gave it a 4.
A 4.
I don't think I would quite give it a 5, but I did give it a 4. Because I do still find it very funny. I enjoy a lot of the line deliveries, and a lot of the acting in it is really funny.
Yeah.
Like Frasier trying to get away with an extra black ball that turns out to be a dried up old fig, much like Missy Cromwell. There's a point when, Frasier and Niles have called someone and invited them to the party, and then overheard them when they thought the phone was hanged up, saying, "Oh, you get the one, you get that other one. I think they're a bit weird," and whatever it is they say. And they're talking to each other about it and kind of say like, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. You know, I enjoy your company. I don't think we need to worry about whatever." And at that point, Martin walks in, and Frasier immediately turns around and says, "Dad, do you think we're weird?" And Martin is stuck in this the parents' dilemma
he sort of freezes
I
for a
can't
second.
be mean to my child, but also I need to be honest.
Yeah.
And he says like, "No, you're not weird. You're just special." And it's the way he says it, and the look on his face, and then the way that
it's very
Frasier and Niles react. They're kind of taken aback, as in like, oh my god, our dad thinks we're weird.
It's like it's very much a rehearsed response as well. Like he says that's something that their mum used to say to them as well.
It's very funny. There's lots of good bits.
It's just a really nice little episode. It's there's nothing overly plot driven. There's nothing overly offensive. It's not offensive.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah, just nothing to be too critical of. There's nothing that you need to think too hard about to get the humor. It's just a fun little episode.
Yeah,
and I just enjoy it. Definitely one of my faves of the season.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Okay, rounding off the disc, we've got Taps at the Montana.
Mm-hmm.
As you might have gathered from the episode, that's Niles back at the Montana. Or at least he will be by the end of this episode. He is still feeling a bit depressed over Daphne and Donnie. He's trying to reconcile that in his head. And he's kind of struggling. What?
I'm sorry, I'm thinking... So, continue. I'll explain when we get to it in the plot. It's a joke that is coming up.
Okay.
That it's popped back into my head and it's making me laugh.
So he's still trying to reconcile that. And he's had a bit of a run-in at a restaurant. Both Daphne and Donnie were at a table. Maris and
her new partner,
whatever, are at another table, and Niles is sat in the middle, and it's very upsetting.
He's not having a good time.
Yeah.
It's the joke when Niles is explaining the situation to Martin, and he mentions that Maris was playing all of the same games that she used to play when she was dating Niles, and coyly hiding behind her breadstick. It just it cracks me. I feel so sorry for Niles at the beginning when he's talking about this. And
it's really quite upsetting watching it because he's really that would be a difficult.
And the meal was bad, but he didn't want to send it back because he didn't want to look snobby in front of Daphne. And then of course that completely backfires because Donnie did the exact same thing, and Daphne was actually quite taken with it, thinking like, oh, it's really good having someone that wants what's best for me.
I know.
Oh God, poor Niles.
Poor Niles. So by the end of that conversation and after the dinner, he wants to go home. He wants to go back to the Montana. That's the last bit of his previous life that he's not got back yet. I mean, it never explicitly says that he's got a new car, but it's kind of implied that he has. Yeah. And this is the last thing he needs to get back on track. But someone's leasing it. Another doctor is leasing it. I can't remember his name. Dr.
No, I can't remember. Didn't write it down.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Bojangles the Loon.
Bojangles the Loon, yeah, is what Niles calls him. They go to inspect the apartment after they're going to try and tie up his lease, and get Niles back on it. Or it's like a sublet. I don't know how American housing works. I have no idea. Yeah,
Niles has a lease and is subletting it
to the other guy.
Which is a second lease that he then cannot back out of. I don't. It's probably very complicated legally.
I imagine so. He's trying to get him out of it. So it's sort of the task is twofold. First, to get rid of the doctor who has taken up tap dancing and is annoying all the other neighbors, and then the second is to actually convince the neighbors that he can re-sign the lease. Or move back.
They're planning on rescinding his lease.
Yeah, so they're planning on pulling it back because of the doctor,
and also because there has been various other raucous parties that Niles has thrown over the years. His Halloween party probably didn't go over very well.
I can imagine.
Their first meeting when his bird insulted all of them probably didn't go particularly well either.
Yeah. So we see a couple of the same characters. It's Carol and George.
I can't remember. Is it Larkin? Carol Larkin, and I can't remember what his name is.
It's not George Larkin?
The guy, I can picture him, but I can't think what his name is.
And they've got a couple of new characters who are on the sort of building board. Mr. Probst.
Mr. Probst.
Probst. And what's her name? The lady who's chasing Martin.
The one that fancies Martin. Yeah.
So they're coming together. They're ready to kick Niles out, basically. But Niles is determined to make his case, so he throws a party, tries to get everyone back on his side. That, however, goes horribly wrong, as we'd expect nothing less at this point when it comes to crane parties. Poor little baby.
Yeah, baby the bird.
Baby the cockatoo, who was apparently still alive after 2 seasons. I don't know how long cockatoos live for.
I'm not sure.
Are cockatoos one of the birds that live for 30 years?
Could be. Seagulls live for 30 years.
No,
I think a lot they do.
Seagulls.
Apparently, they have very, very long lifespans. I mean, they rarely live that long when they're out in the wild, but they have been known to live that long.
Wow.
Naturally.
I was just thinking, if cockatoos are the birds that live 30 years, that life is cut very short.
Oh yeah,
that's quite sad actually.
It is, yeah.
When you think about it like that, I thought they only lived for a few years. In which case, it was like, it's not that bad.
I don't know. I'm not a bird expert.
Yeah, neither.
What are they called?
Ornithologists.
Ornithologists. Thank you.
I don't know why I was able to answer that so quickly. I'm so bad with things like that.
Yeah.
I've got birds on the brain.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving swiftly on. Where did I get to?
I have no idea.
I've had the fan on in this room all day, and it's been nice and cool. And then I turned the fan off to record, and now it's so warm again. I know we keep complaining about how warm
we're not used to this heat. All right, I know that there's probably people listening to us that live. I mean, we do have listeners in Australia who are currently it's winter in Australia.
Saudi Arabia.
We have listeners in Saudi Arabia.
Reached 6 in the iTunes charts.
We did
on the Saudi Arabian iTunes charts for TV reviews.
That's pretty fun.
That's not something I ever thought would happen.
I don't know.
But there you go. So listeners from there, we appreciate it. It's probably hot where you are all the time.
Yeah, we're not used to it here.
We're not used to it here. At the moment, it is just.
Speaking of rankings in the charts, we did actually get quite high in the UK. Yeah. I noticed recently. I think we got to like 35.
Wow!
And in film and TV reviews,
there we go.
Actually, pretty good.
Top 50.
Yeah,
top 50 on iTunes.
Not bad.
That's pretty cool. Got to hit that top 10.
Yeah.
Tell your friends.
Yeah. Get up there.
We should do the promos at the start and the end, not in the middle of.
No, we shouldn't. But
I always feel bad going on these weird tangents.
It came up for a reason. It came up naturally. So yes, the baby has died. Yes. And they believe that it is probably because it has eaten an hors d'oeuvre.
A bad hors d'oeuvre.
Is bad, but then it turns out no, it actually choked on Daphne's earring that fell out. But they don't realise that until after Frasier has chucked out all of the other hors d'oeuvres, which means
he was very quick to throw them all out.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then, as if it wasn't bad excuse me. That was like a half burp.
Oh boy.
But nothing came out.
Oh no.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Now your microphone's gonna smell like burps.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
It's all good. Now I have the dilemma of whether I edit this bit out or not.
I don't know.
Or maybe just leave it in.
Yeah, that's fine. Leave it in.
Okay.
We'll just move on.
So as if baby's death wasn't bad enough, we've got poor old Mr. Probst as well, who happens to keel over and die in the middle of a game of what's it called, like murder?
I think they just call it murder.
Where you have, you set up, give everyone a bit of paper. One of the bits of paper has murder written on it, and then you have to they pick a victim, and it's like a party game. It's a very convoluted and seems like absolute hell having to interact with other party guests like that. But anyway, and yeah, unfortunately, poor Mr. Probst has collapsed on top of Roz, and it's no longer alive. He has ceased to be, which obviously puts a crimp on the party. Somehow, unbelievably, they manage to salvage the party.
Yeah.
Frasier rallies everyone into the kitchen and stalls while Martin calls his police buddy and gets an ambulance over to come and pick up Mr. Probst's body and wheel out of the apartment. And after he leaves, Niles finds out that all of the other board members actually are pretty indifferent to him, but they despise Mr. Probst. Yeah. So they were all going to vote for him
because they didn't like Mr. Probst. They were going to vote to keep Niles there out in spite.
So that's what they do, and Niles gets his apartment back.
His lovely apartment back.
Sans baby, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but
what are you gonna do?
He doesn't actually get any more pets.
No, he doesn't.
Which is funny because he had obviously
Mara's dog. He had the dog,
lady,
and then he had baby,
lady, then baby, girl, woman. What would you call the next pet?
I don't know.
A hedgehog named Lass.
He does get more birds.
Does he?
Yes, you never see them on screen, but they do mention him having birds in later seasons.
Yes, they do. You're absolutely right. but it's a slight spoiler if we mention it now.
Yeah, a couple of very brief references.
Well, that's true. Yeah, there you go. Well remembered. Yeah. I don't think I would have remembered that at all.
Yeah.
And that was a very long-winded description of Taps at the Montana.
Mm-hmm.
Several tangents again. This is what the heat does to us, man. It just totally melts the brain at this time of the evening. But we've come to the end of this disc and this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And would you like to give your final rating for Taps at the Montana?
I give it a 3.
Okay.
I don't think it's anything particularly special. I quite like it, and I like what do I like about it? I started saying that and realized that I didn't really have anything in my head that I especially like. There's one thing that I'm probably gonna wind up giving my highlight to, so I'm not gonna say it now.
Okay.
But there was something about it that I did really enjoy, so I'll keep that under my hat for a second. I liked the jokes at the beginning when Niles is talking about how awful this dinner went. I liked the jokes about Martin getting chased around by the guest at the party, and Mr. Probst and the other
grumpy old
Mr. Probst and
It's I gave it a 3 as well, but I was just very much of the opinion that it's just very middle of the road.
Yeah.
You struggle to think of something you particularly liked about it. That's fine. I struggle to think of things I particularly dislike about it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of middle of the road. Nice little episode to round off the disc and kind of round off Niles getting back to normality, I guess, for him as well.
Yeah.
It does feel a little bit like a repeat of the previous Montana party episode.
Yeah.
This sort of ridiculous scenario that crops up while Niles is giving a party that's important to his new neighbours.
Yeah.
It does feel a little bit rehashed.
Yeah. And the bird playing a big part in it as well.
Yeah. So there is that I always kind of I prefer To Kill a Talking Bird.
Yeah.
I think is a much better episode. So this always kind of gets marked down a little bit because I'm comparing it to the other one.
Mm-hmm.
But overall,
that's fair enough.
Middle of the road. It's fine. It's all good. Do you want to move on to highlights now?
Yes.
So you can give it while it's fresh in your head.
Well, it's fresh in my mind. I really like, and we couldn't remember his name, but the doctor that is subletting Niles' apartment.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's really funny. He just suddenly comes in tap dancing, and he's got his Walkman on.
Yeah.
And they start talking, and he's clearly a bit nutty. And he talks about like you gotta lick it and stick it.
Yeah.
And he just like mid conversation starts like doing these dance moves and tap dancing about, and he's just like kicking the baseboards as he's tap dancing, and he does that thing where you like step up onto a chair and knock it over and
tip it and then keep going.
Tip it with like Niles' lovely antique chair, and he's just very funny. I like him as a little character.
He is good, yeah, and I'm really annoyed at myself for not remembering his name.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could have it up on screen. Our little helper. I don't think it's there. Dr. McClowry.
Dr. McClowry, there you go.
Dr. McClowry. There we go. We've got a little help sheet off to the side, which obviously you can't see because this is a podcast, not a video. In case you hadn't noticed by this point.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what I would give my highlight to, if I'm being perfectly honest. Because there's a lot of good bits, but I don't know if there's any one thing that sort of outshines the rest.
Mm.
I like Dinner Party. I like the bottle episode. I like Decoys. I like Daphne and Ross. No, I don't. I like Niles and Ross.
Yeah.
I think their dynamic is amazing. and I think it shines particularly well in Decoys, just throughout. Initially, when even as an audience, we don't know what Niles is up to, first of all, so we just see it as Niles inviting Roz out, as you said, like, what is it, loves losers, lost, licking their wounds, or whatever it is Niles says, and just going up to the cabin to enjoy themselves as friends. And it's just that kind of conversation's really nice. And then when they get there as well, they sort of hatch this evil ploy together, and they do whatever they need to. They even kiss at one point to try and convince everyone. So just that dynamic, man, that friendship, I love it. I wish we got more episodes like this where we got to see them together. They are very much few and far between from this point on, I think.
Yeah.
I off the top of my head, I can't think of any others. But
yeah, there's a brief scene in the season finale of this season. They're kind of they sit together at Nervosa because it's late at night and neither of them have dates.
Yeah.
And they sit and have a coffee.
That is a nice scene, actually. I like that as well. We'll get to that next week, though. For that is Disc 3 done. The season finale next. And we will tie off with some ups and downs. I don't know.
I quite enjoy the last disc.
There is one that I am very curious to hear your opinion on.
Yeah.
Because I know that it's going to get a 1 from me.
Oh.
And I know that it might get a 5 from you.
Oh.
So
I mean, if it's the one I'm thinking, there's one that I think I might give a 5 to, and if that is the one that you're giving a 1 to, I will be pretty shocked.
Okay.
So we'll keep that in suspense for next time. For
next week. Wait and see. We might come to fisticuffs.
Oh boy.
Start battering each other. That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
It might happen. There's a tiny chance.
No, yeah.
It's not impossible.
It's not?
I mean, anything's possible, you know.
Oh boy.
It might get particularly heated. I might need to just release my anger.
Throw hands.
And start throwing hands. Yeah, exactly.
Boy.
It's not going to come to that. It might come to that. Right, let's tie it off. Thank you for joining us. I hope you all have a great day, good mental health, and as always, thank you for listening. This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leah O'Donnell for the show's artwork.